Hello, all. Welcome to this new session of Legal Essentials for Human Resource Management, an interesting course that looks into the various legal provisions that underlines human resource functions at modern day workplaces. Our last discussion was about Provident Funds Act of 1952, and where we looked at some of its uh, coverages, both mandatory, both compulsory as well as voluntary. We have also looked at various organizations and trusts which are set up according to this act. And with that ideas in mind, with that information, and with that background, let's move ahead and discuss more about this act, which is going to be the part 2 of Provident Funds Act 1952. And as you remember, my name is Dr. Amish Samalopanan, and I am from Nalsa University of Law, Hyderabad. Now, we talked about what this act is. What does this act do? Let's look at various schemes that are framed under this act. The first scheme, and probably the most popular scheme that you all know, is the Employees Provident Fund Scheme. Now, what does this scheme do? It provides a post-retirement benefit for the employees or to their legal heir in case of death. So this act says that it is mandatory for every organization, every establishment that comes under the coverage of this act, which essentially is you have to have more than 20 employees, and we have detailed discussion in our last session regarding the coverage, so I'm not going there. So if you fall within the coverage of this act, and you have to compulsorily contribute a percentage of the wage, which is 12% of the wage as an employer, and employee also has to contribute 12% of the wage. This is mandatory for all the employees which is earning wage equal or less than 15,000 rupees. When I say wage, we have discussed it in the wage related sessions, that wage is basic plus DA. So anybody who gets lesser than 15,000 has to be mandatorily covered. Now, being said that, as I told in the last session, that you can voluntarily also contribute or be part of this scheme. So as it stands today, almost all the employees who work under this organization, under this establishments, are covered, and any establishment who doesn't also fall under this categorization into the mandatory categorization will also voluntarily be part of this provisions. And there also this 12% contribution from the employer and 12% contribution from the employee. In certain categories of establishment, understand that this percentage can be 10%. So I mean, you should not fight on this percentage. That's what I'm saying. In certain establishment, it can be 10%. Now, this amount has been paid for many years. So of course, there would be a certain interest that also be coming into this amount. So the interest earned on this amount is also credited to the employees' provident fund account and is available for the employees at the time of retirement or exit from employment, whatever the case may be. And it's a fixed interest rate, and EPFO have declared the rate of interest for provident fund accounts for financial year 2024-25, just to have a reference, is 8.25 percentage. So to make things very clear, what employees provident fund scheme does is it asks you to give 12 percentage of your basic plus DA amount as a contribution to your provident fund, and the employer also has to provide equivalent amount of money, and it is deposited into a fund, and this amount stays there until your retirement, or certain emergency provisions might come in, emergency situations might come in, and at the time of retirement you get this money plus the interest that has been on that money over this period. And the interest percentages keep changing, but as a reference point, if you want, it is 8.25 in the financial year 24-25. Another scheme under this act is employees pension scheme. Now, first was a provident fund scheme, now this is a pension scheme. Now this is essentially to provide sustenance during old age, and it is something that is covered for their families also. So what is the coverage? Any employee shall be entitled to superannuation pension if he have rendered a service of 10 years or more and retires on the attaining the age of 58 years. This is another scheme under the Provident Fund Act. So it is open for anybody who have 10 years of service and retires on attaining superannuation. It is available for early pensions also if they have given 10 years or more service. And it has to be after 50 years also. So these are all coverage. Who is eligible, who can apply under the scheme. Now, how is contribution happening here? Employee provides a significant percentage. Employer. So who contributes money? In the Provident Fund scheme, you would have seen that 12% from the employer, 12% from the employee. Here what happens is 8.33% of the monthly wage from the employer share and 1.16% of the monthly wage comes from the central government. This is split. This is contribution coming from the central government also. But this 1.16% only up to the ceiling of 15,000 because that is a mandatory coverage. So often this is applicable for people who earn a wage below 15,000 and where pension scheme also has to be set up. Now what is the benefit? Disability happens during work. It could be partial disablement, temporary disablement, permanent disablement, any category of disablement, you can avail certain amount from this. Widow gets pension. Children pension for 2 children until they reach 25 years on the death of the employee. Orphan person, if there is no spouse or spouse is also dead, it also goes up to 25 years. Disabled children or orphan pension for the entire life of a disabled child or orphan. That provision is also there. If in case you don't have a family defined, then a nominee person will also get pension. pension to dependent father or mother upon death of the employee, provided he is not married or there is no nominee of the employee. So all these people can benefit from this particular scheme. Third scheme is Employees Deposit Linked Insurance Scheme of 1976. This is an insurance scheme under this act. This is applicable for employees who are members of EPFO fund, and applicable for all factories and establishment to which Provident Funds and Miscellaneous Provisions Act applies. Not for the voluntary ones, but the ones who is mandatorily covered. And all the employees who are members of the Provident Fund are members of the scheme. Now what is the contribution? In the first case, we saw it's 12%. Then we saw it's 8.33 from employer and 1.16% from the central government. Here, the employer must provide 0.5% of the basic salary or maximum rupees 75 per employee per month. If the employee is getting wage above 15,000, the contribution still would be 25% per month, because it beats the purpose. It's 0.5% of the basic salary amount would be too much. So of course 75 rupees per month. Employee doesn't have to pay any money under the scheme. Now the benefit is that in the event of death of an employee, the nominee or the legal heir is eligible to receive a lump sum amount under this particular scheme. Now, it's a very interesting formula that this scheme uses to calculate the amount. It considers the average monthly balance in the employee provident fund account during the last 12 months. And on the basis of that, it calculates the amount, in which the maximum coverage is 7 lakhs and the minimum insurance benefit is 2.5 lakhs. So that's the range of benefit that you get under this scheme. Now let me also introduce to you another interesting thing, which is a universal account number. I'm sure you are all aware of Aadhaar and Aadhaar number. You have a 16-digit number which becomes the identity of you. UAN number is another unique 12-digit number that becomes kind of an identity of the employee, especially in relation to the Employees Provident Fund Act. Now, if you're a new employee, you register, your employer registers you, and then you get a 12-digit number assigned to the employees, and a new account is opened. Now, this UN number will act as an umbrella number so that multiple member IDs allotted by different establishments, it all come together. Let me give you an example. I worked at establishment A, then I went into establishment B, then I went to establishment C. It's not like you start your provident account from a scratch. If you remember, I told you there is a interest also that has been calculated on these amounts, which means it's always best that you have a single deposit scheme that goes for many years. So UN account number works as a unifying link between various establishments, and this becomes your unique deposit scheme. So if you don't have a UN number, you join a new establishment, you get a new establishment number. But if you already have a UN number, you are supposed to provide that while joining the new establishment. So that your provident fund deductions are reflected on the particular UN number. and it becomes an identity. So even in your pay slip, it will come the UN number, and you have to log in into your PF related account or EPFO website. This is your identity. This is like your Aadhaar number when it comes to Provident Fund. Now, how can we withdraw Provident Fund? I told you Provident Funds are constituted as a retirement benefit, though it works as an insurance scheme as well as uh, more of a pension scheme. The original purpose of constituting Provident Fund is that you have some sort of a financial stability or backing in the time of distress. So it is only natural that an employee would love to or might need to take back some amount from his Provident Fund account when there is a issue, when there is a financial crunch. Rightly so, there are certain mechanisms by which you can withdraw your Provident Fund amount even before your retirement time have reached. So you can withdraw your Provident Fund amount for these few conditions. First, when you're purchasing a house or a flat, or you are doing a construction of house including acquisition of a site, for that time you can take up to a particular percentage. You cannot empty it completely, so it depends upon how much is the requirement. I might be wrong, but I guess if it is construction of a house, you can go up to 90% is what I believe. But of course there has to be certain conditions met. So like you should have continuously for 5 years maintaining this account, and continuous service should be there. So such conditions met, you can go up to 90 percentage. Is I might be wrong in terms of percentage, but yes, for purchase of house, flat, construction of house, etc., you can take money from your PF account. Imagine you have some loans which you wish to repay. For that purpose also, you can take the amount, and or there in certain other special cases also you can take out money, like illness. There is a severe illness, so you can advance from the fund. Marriage or post matriculation education of the children, for those things also you can take the money, or 1 year before retirement. That, so you can start taking the money 1 year before the retirement, then also you can withdraw the amount. So these are certain conditions for the withdrawal of Provident Fund. Now, biggest question I've been asked, there are certain employers who during the compliance check, it has been found out that they are not paying the employer share of Provident Fund contribution, and they're lapsing it and all. So what happens if the employer is not paying their due share of amount from the employee? But from employee they are taking 12% of the amount from the employee, but they are not putting their 12%, and often they're sitting on it for many years. In such situations, what can we do? So section 8 discusses about all those things in the Provident Fund Act, and section 8b talks about recovering it through recovery officer. So what happens here is, an authorized officer can issue a certificate to the recovery officer, and the recovery officer can indulge in certain actions to recover whatever amount needs to be taken. So the certificate that is given to the recovery officer will have the overdue amount written in. So the recovery officer, upon receiving the certificate, either can seize the property of the establishment or the employer and then sell it and then take the money and deposit it. Or you can arrest the employer and put them in jail, or they can even appoint someone to manage the property of the establishment or the employer, by which they can generate revenue and then you can take over. That's the word. Take over the establishment or the property of the employer. Another mode of recovery is that, let's say if someone owes money to the employer who is behind payment, and he cites that the reason behind which they are not able to pay up, the Central Provident Fund Commissioner or other organized or another authorized officer designated by the central board can request the person to subtract the outstanding amount owed by the employer under this act from the money due to them. So the person must comply with this request and pay the deducted sum to the Central Provident Fund Commissioner or authorized officer as applicable. So let's say there is a person supposed to give money to the employer. A Central Provident Commissioner or any other authorized officer can ask this person who owes the money to pay the money to us directly rather than paying it to the person who owes the money, and that's another way by which you can recover the amount which has been lapsed by the employer. So there are two ways to do it: section 28P, 8F, and another recovery method which has been discussed. So with that note, let me conclude today's session. And if you remember, what we discussed today is the three schemes under the Provident Fund Act, which is the Provident Fund in itself, as well as a pension scheme and as an insurance scheme. And we would also looked at what all conditions you can withdraw the money from your Provident Fund account. We also looked at in case of employer not being able to, or rather not willingly, also it's not just unwillingly, it is also willingly not paying the share of the employer to the Provident Fund. What are the ways by which the central government can recover the amount? So we have looked at those aspects also. So with those information, we have a fair idea of how the Provident Fund system works. And if you look at a small recap of this entire week 4, we were discussing social security provisions in detail, in which we started off our first two sessions discussing what is the concept of social security and what are the various provisions, what are the various laws, as well as how the entire social security provisions in the country functions. After that, we started discussing each acts and provisions separately. We started off with Bonus Act. Then we looked at Employee Provident Fund Act, and with a thorough understanding of all this, we will move ahead into Employee Compensation Act in the next week. So next week is also dedicated to discussions on social security. We will look into various social security provisions in detail, as well as certain well-being provisions also. So we will cover that also in our 5th week. So with that information, with that knowledge, I hope we will be better positioned in the 5th week to discuss more about these social security provisions. It's also a happy news that we have reached at the exact middle point of this course. This is a 40 session course, and this session marks the 20th session, which means that we are in exact middle point. I hope you will continue learning, continue focusing, continue following this course with as much rigor and dedication you have shown in the first half. Trust me, second half is going to be much more interesting. So let's continue in the next week on our detailed discussions on social security and much more. Until then, let me take a break. Thank you so much. You have a great day ahead.